I don't believe in magic. I've just come across it a few times. I knew this day was coming. We all knew, but it was only now, today, that the reality has really set in for me. The 5th Indiana Jones film is on the horizon. James Mangold and Lucasfilm just dropped the holy grail, the Ark of the Covenant, the trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's been 33 years since the world got to experience the magic of Indy, a time before I was even alive to share in it. Oh yeah, you know what? I forgot. Correction, it's been 14 years since I've gotten to revel in the magic of Indiana Jones. Yeah, that's right, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull fucks, and there's gonna be a video coming on that. Don't you, just wait, folks, that video is coming. And while there are a lot of movies I grew up with, as is the case for all of us, Steven Spielberg's movies naturally played a big part in why I love film. I just talked about that with The Fabelmans, which you can check out over here. Well, a large part of what brought me to where I am today with movies was sparked when Harrison Ford walked out of those shadows and immediately showed me the magic that is Indiana Jones. I'm sure this isn't necessarily an original anecdote, but I can't even count the amount of times I would throw on Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, The Last Crusade, even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when that hit DVD. I had those movies on loop, similar to Star Wars, but there was something about Indiana Jones that really spoke to me. The excitement, the swashbuckling, globe-trotting adventure, and if I'm being honest, I think it's my love for Indiana Jones that helped me fall in love with what is my favorite franchise of all time, James Bond. There is nothing like watching an Indiana Jones film. The rolling boulder, the massive fight in the town market, the dig for the Ark. Hell, before they even start digging, the map room. Oh my God, you get the feels. It's both creepy and mesmerizing and awe-inspiring. It's just like, how the fuck was someone able to do this? It's a masterpiece. And of course, I'm only talking about Raiders there, but Temple of Doom, as many of you do know, is my favorite Indiana Jones film. Did a video on that, which you can check out. And so much of that movie, the pulpiness, the horrifying descent into this cultish hellscape, and then the exciting minecart chase out, it's just Temple of Doom is a goddamn blast. Basically, the reason that I kept coming back to these films was the character of Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, and just the essence of him as a person poured into this iconic on-screen character. But even more than that, what I really loved about these movies is just how much of a blast they were. You can tell that they were movies made by people who just loved being creative together. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg birthed this iconic series out of a love for a bygone genre, and that love and that passion and their personal experiences seep into the work, and that's what makes it resonate so much for all of us. And while it might not be Steven Spielberg himself bringing this capstone of the Indy franchise to the big screen next year, when this trailer dropped, I nonetheless felt it. Every memory I had of growing up watching the first 4 films came flooding back to me. So the short of it is, Indiana Jones is back, and James Mangold clearly knows what he's doing. The long of it? Well, how the f*** does Harrison Ford still look this good? Oh my God. Indy still got it. Obviously he's had the Hollywood acting career to end all Hollywood acting careers for half a century now. He never lost it, but it's so crazy how effortless the charm is, the charisma, the physicality comes to him even at the age of 80. Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones, and the trailer reaffirms why he's so inseparable from the character. And look, I like The Force Awakens, although my love of that movie has dwindled over the years, mainly thanks to The Rise of Skywalker. Fuck that movie. And it was really great to see Han Solo again in that film, but the passion that burst from the screen every time we see Harrison's face in this trailer dwarfs that of his return to Han Solo 1,000 times over. This is his career-defining part, and I will die on that hill, man. And even more than that, this is the role that Harrison Ford cares so deeply about, because it is the one that he has the most fun playing. It's the one that he enjoys watching as an audience member, and it's the one that feels like it's so intrinsically linked to him. It's shaped by him and his experiences. My God, the scar on Indy's chin is actually Harrison Ford's scar that he got, and they just, kind of wrote it into the character. There is only one Indiana Jones, and it's Harrison Ford. But damn, he really is is looking good here. Oh, that's the de-aging? Oh, geez, oh my god. Which actually seems to really work. I mean, look, I think we gotta watch him speak and see the face actually move, but so far so good. I mean, that's really kind of an understatement. So far, holy fucking shit. This is the modern era of VFX. I can't even believe it. And that's maybe the most interesting part of this whole trailer. There's some kind of flashback or time travel element happening here. I doubt they went to all the effort it takes to CGI that much de-aged Indy material only for it to all happen in a single flashback prologue. I feel like they're either gonna be woven throughout the story, or again, we might be looking at a time travel story. The film's subtitle, of course, is The Dial of Destiny. You dial back time to go to the past, and as we know from Back to the Future, the butterfly effect, and about 1 in every 10 episodes of Star Trek, if you mess around with time travel, you often alter destiny. And of course, I am curious how the dial itself factors into all of this. It seems as though we do see the titular mechanism in the trailer, but it also looks like a key turning a lock. That being said, I don't think the movie would be named after it if it was just the equivalent to the Staff of Ra or the Grail Diary, a stepping stone towards the big objective. So this is probably either a portal that is used multiple times to repeatedly go back to the past, or it's what the heroes and Nazis have both been after the whole movie, and there's one big time travel finale. If I had to pick, I'd probably lean toward the former, but who the fuck knows. And if it is a key to manipulate time, that's pretty cool, dude. I mean, if you put a key in a keyhole and then turn it, you are, after all, dialing the lock. But even beyond what the dial is, what it does, or if what we see here even is the dial, it's hard to discern a single culture the artifact belongs to as well. Could it be Atlantis? Well, there's definitely a sequence that happens underwater, so I don't know, maybe. But there's also these statues or ruins that look Greek or Roman, and I feel like that's actually pretty interesting. That's arguably more enticing because that's surprisingly untouched terrain for Indy. But I still keep going back to the idea of Atlantis, not only because it's already present in Indy lore outside of the films, but because of this idea of Atlantis as this mythic place. It's so intrinsically linked with the idea of time. Atlantis is this super advanced society just lost to time, and there's that idea of time again. I don't know, it just sort of makes sense. And then also, while Indy is giving a lecture, there's this weird looking vase thing that is included in his lecture slides, and that also kind of doubles down on the Atlantis idea for me because it kind of looks like the Atlantean design from Fate of Atlantis. And there's this like Pirates of the Caribbean sea wreckage thing towards the top of the trailer, and I'm just really curious how all of these things intersect, what it ultimately means, and what the mythology ends up being. Because it isn't immediately recognizable as an artifact in the way the Ark of the Covenant is, the Grail, and the Crystal Skull were. This definitely feels more along the lines of the Sankara stones from Temple of Doom, which, but if you're gonna invoke Temple of Doom, I am f***ing sold. Then again, there's Banderas's character, who is apparently Spanish, I'm not quite sure, but given the late 60s, early 70s setting, which appears to be when this movie takes place, it could be that he's playing a Franco-fascist. There are Nazis involved again this time, so the fascism angle could tie in, and maybe they actually go to Spain to find the dial, or maybe Atlantis is off the coast of Spain, who knows. But speaking on the 60s, 70s time period the film appears to be set in, there's a great parade scene in the middle of the trailer, and what's interesting about this is it seems to be an Apollo mission homecoming parade and a Vietnam War protest at the same time. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but the banner behind the car says "Giant Leap for Mankind." So we can kind of assume there's some sort of intersection here. And then we have shots of protesters seemingly converging on the parade with Vietnam-era attire and signage, which is just a really interesting detail because it seems like the movie's going to be capitalizing on all of the juicy era-specific turmoil from the first half of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is, you know, the best part of that movie. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got some Reds running around for good measure, or at the very least, a name check. Basically, I think that Mangold has a lot that he wants to kind of explore with this movie, and specifically that period of time. And the trailer also shows us multiple locations. We're obviously in for a world-faring, set-piece laden adventure regardless of where the dial is or how it factors into the story or the time period, whatever. What I'm very eager to see is how the film examines Indy's place now that he's so much older. I can't wait to see how he functions in 1960s New York. He's like a fish out of water in his own country, not only a man whose prime is behind him, but who has watched the whole world transform around him. It seems as though The Dial of Destiny is going to be a film about whether there's a place for Indy's adventures now, about whether he even feels it's worth chasing the adventure. Even that exchange between him and Sala screams of two men wishing for the thrill of adventure again, aching to be young men again, with Sala holding on to the possibility that they've got a few ounces left to give, while Indy has resigned himself to the fact that the sands of time have dwindled. I think it's pretty safe to say that Dial of Destiny is going to be a very existential journey for Indy, but also a timely one with all the fascists trying to turn back time. I can even see, because of the de-aged Indy, a climactic struggle, something where Indy has to make a choice to either return to the past and reclaim his youth and the comfort of a familiar time with the people he loves, his dad, Ravenwood, Marcus, and risk his goddaughter never being born or losing that relationship with her, something along those lines. Like, I'm sure she'll be at stake, and he chooses not to, and instead sacrifice a second life, almost immortality, to be with those he still has so they can have a better future. That would add a lot of context to the whole fascists angle, or really just the Nazis returning, their desire to return to a time where fascism reigned. Things cannot ever be that way again, and if Indy succumbed to the desire to be a younger adventurer again, that's precisely where he would end up amidst the era of Hitler and the Third Reich. He makes a selfless decision, the right decision. You can't change the past, but you can use history as a lesson to not repeat the mistakes and progress. And keep in mind, this is all a theory centered around the dial the film's name alludes to. I'm not trying to pretend I've outsmarted James Mangold, because I definitely haven't. This is only one possibility, and I've learned since several films ago not to underestimate Mangold's ability to surprise us. The return of the Nazis to the Indiana Jones franchise obviously makes a whole lot of sense, especially when you take in the current landscape. But seeing as you're gonna have Indy go up against these Nazi devotees trying to resurrect the old order, because of course they are, that's what they're going to do, I'm sure the depth and dimension of their belief is going to come up. And this was one of the cooler aspects of the City of Gods draft for Indiana Jones 4. Kind of the line between dreams and reality and how belief manifests those dreams. They even call it the Crystal Skull of Destiny. And there's a whole subplot about an old Nazi who wants to use the skull to resurrect Hitler and the Third Reich. I'm not saying they went and plundered that draft for ideas, since so many of them ended up in the final film for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull anyways, but it's a fun parallel. These ideas feel like they've been hanging around the franchise for a while now, and they'll probably make their way into this movie in some way, shape, or form. There's really no way to use the Nazis in a post-World War II setting without making their goal bring back Hitler. Like, that was even the plot of the canceled sequel game to Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, which, again, later became a comic. Modern fascists want to turn back to a time centered around authoritarian rule, because they're afraid. They're afraid of what progress does to their bigoted, small-minded mentality. At the end of the day, whatever direction the story goes, there is one thing I believe above all else, that the Dial of Destiny will serve to reaffirm the magic of Indiana Jones. Indy says,
"Believe it's not so much what you believe, it's how hard you believe it."
And I don't disagree with that. So what I believe is that everything this trailer did to reignite my belief in that magic will be amplified tenfold the day I sit down and watch Indiana Jones 5 for the first time. We're all searching for some kind of answer. Indy is, his goddaughter is, Sala is, even the fascists are. They're desperately clawing at the surface of life's mystery for the thing to pledge themselves to, that they can find a singular answer to varying degrees. I have always felt that to be the core of all 4 of Spielberg's Indy films, and now it looks like Mangold is following in his mold. But I also believe this film will be something of a reckoning for Indy, to come to terms with all these varying miracles he's seen and experienced that are rooted in the mythology of a multitude of faiths. I get that Indy always starts as the skeptic in these stories, but I feel like he's seen one too many miracles at this point to really be such a skeptic now. The strength of belief has never really been a factor for Indy before, the way his line about magic suggests it is now. All 3 original films end with Indy surrendering to belief on some level and trusting that the right outcome would follow, but the strength of that conviction never felt relevant to those moments. I suppose that might be what they're going to try and set up in the de-aged Indy segment of the film, illustrating how Indy's experiences led to the formation of his current worldview. Indy has always, in the past, though, seemed to fall into a mindset that it does matter what you believe. It's why he opposes the Nazis, who he rightly thinks have bad beliefs. The conviction of one's belief is of reduced importance if the belief itself is already genocidal. It's dangerous in its own right, and conviction and strength only amplify the danger. But a healthy belief, one of hope or compassion or assistance for those in need, well, conviction amplifies it into something that is, yes, magical. So if that's what Indy's getting at, it's a bit of a roundabout way of saying it, but then again, that's life. You so often find yourself circling back to where you originally were, even as you move forward. It's the same reason that I've rewatched Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, what feels like a billion times, and keep finding new reasons to adore it. It's the reason that I believe Indy will turn down whatever temptations come with the Dial of Destiny in favor of the gifts his life has already given him. And it's why I believe in the magic of Indiana Jones, and why I cannot wait to watch his upcoming movie, because in all of those circumstances, it makes us feel like, in the words of, ironically, Han Solo, we're home.